Hey, my name is Brad Haehnel. I'm a music mixer, primarily for the past sort of 10 years doing film music mixing. My current credits include Life of Pi, the Lego Movie, Rio 2, and 22 Jump Street I've just finished, and primarily that was mixed on the Raven. My overall impression of the Raven after really going through and working with it through 22 Jump Street is that it is the future. That's honestly the way I feel. I feel that this style of mixing is more efficient for handling very large or even medium to small sessions with greater efficiency and being able to sit in that sweet spot. Again, that just adds to that efficiency, and you'll get through to the end of your project a lot faster. One of the main things, again, in looking to the future and how I'm going to, adapt the new world, was you got to remember, I come from big analog desks. That's where I began, and of course, the big analog desk has a certain feel and a certain, sort of thing. Then moved into the digital desks, which again have a slightly different thing, but it's still a fader. Then into the control surfaces, but I've already discussed that I've never really found a control surface that I think can do my work very well. So again, going to the Raven, I was a little bit concerned, obviously, with the fact that there are no actual physical faders anymore. They are, the virtual fader, as it were. But honestly, I found that transition to be pretty quick, especially when, again, like I said, you're in your mix position. And suddenly, when you're hitting buttons and being able to just quickly move the faders around was great. The greatest thing for me, quite honestly, was with plugins. Suddenly, my plugins were in front of me, okay? This is huge. And I don't think people realize how much that is. And this is great because these plugins, all of this stuff works so well as far as just using their own GUIs, which is great. I think that's one of the things that kind of gets me a little bit crazy with the other control surfaces is them trying to take the knobs of a manufacturer's GUI and putting them onto some knobs, some hardware knobs. Never really works. I get deep into my plugins, so I'm really messing with attacks and releases and all the things. I mean, you couldn't even lay out a plugin this complex on one of those things. But with this, I can totally get in there and just very quickly just be hitting the buttons and changing the knobs and controlling stuff. And honestly, it's changed my life because that's one area where I can fine-tune stuff while, again, sitting in the hot seat and really get those plugins to sound the way that I want them to. And that's nothing I can do on any other control surface, quite frankly. So that is amazing to me. So on 22 Jump Street, that's when I made the decision to finally put the Raven right in front of me and really give it a proper go and format my sessions to work really well with the Raven. That's when I first got deeply into the fact that I could organize all my tracks, all my groups, everything in such a way that it was really convenient for me to mix quickly. Because again, we're in the film score world. We have deadlines that are absolute. I cannot hold a dub up ever, so I need to be as efficient as possible. And that's actually one of the main things I'm looking for in modern mixing is efficiency, because things aren't getting any easier as filmmaking gets more and more complex, decisions get pushed farther and farther down the chain, and music being one of the last things that actually gets put into a film, we're the ones who get sort of cut off at the deadline. And so as efficient as we possibly can be is everything. It's, again, one of the main reasons that mixing in the box is so vital, so that when I recall things, boom, there they are. And I can just quickly start mixing or making changes. And that, when formatted, that's what I found was so great about mixing 22 Jump Street. I had everything laid out. Every single one of my stems was laid out. For example, I'd get the music editor who would call me regularly to say, hey Brad, I know you've mixed 12 stems, but I need one thing stemmed out from this other thing. It was very easy for me to find that, fix that, stem that thing out, or change or rebalance something they needed, or maybe, you know, anything. But it keeps it a lot more fluid in the way that it was set up. And because I formatted every single cue that way, or session, you know, it's a cue per session, I was able to, you know, very quickly move through the film and do small detail changes and deliver that then to the dub or whatever they needed. It was just the most enjoyable, actually quite experience I've had in a long time mixing a film. So the main advantage that I find for myself and the Raven is that I can stay in that sweet spot all the time in a 5.1 environment, which is really important to me. I could switch groups of hundreds of tracks and those groups will just pop up in front of me. They're organized, I can see them quickly, I can mix and make fine adjustments. I can switch between multiple computers. All of that information is sitting in front of me and at my fingertips, which it really hasn't existed yet without a very large format, and I'm, you know, getting a lot more exercise in the room. So it works great. Multiple computers, as I was mentioning earlier, are just the standard for what we do. So I rather, you know, and I also want to remain in the mix position. So rather than you know, have the, you know, screens off to the side, because what's the point in having one computer here and having those off to the sides? You just get a simple KVM switcher, and what was really amazing about that, I can just switch over to my other rig, and voila, up pops my orchestra rig at this point. So now I've got another whole set of tracks. Like I said before, in this case, it's going to be split out into strings. We did brass separate, and I'm pretty sure we did percussion separate on this one as well. So again, those are three things. I think there was a saxophone solo in this one, so that's got its own stereo stem. But again, this rig has 4 stems that are being mixed internally as well. But again, here I am. I'm still sitting right in the mix position, and I can, you know, mix away in there. I think I set up the strings on this one, so there's my string setup right there. And I can just, you know, go ahead and mix away on that one.